Hey guys, this is Tanner Goodale. I'm here to do my now late presentation over the use of the require and require once functions inside of PHP. This is real brief. My wife gave birth to our firstborn son, our first and only child so far, just last week. So it's been a huge blur since then. So forgive me if I seem a little out of it. Uh, The require and require once functions are really simple functions that we can implement in any of our PHP codes. We actually used the include function in our index whenever we were going through the first week of building, or in week 2. And the include function is actually very similar to the require function, except that the include function, if you run into problems, will only give you a warning, whereas require will give you a fatal error if something doesn't line up. Now you might notice the syntax is a little different between this include function and my require function. That's because I did the require function the way I like it and the way that I think it can only be done, but I'm not positive. I'm still a novice myself with PHP. So anyway, the require function allows us to require a certain piece of PHP code to be implemented into another one. In that way, you could say it sort of works like calling a class, and that class is just another section of PHP code. This one, for example, is just test PHP, which calls the footer PHP that I made earlier, and all it does is just take this code and it plops it into this PHP file, which isn't even properly made into HTML5. It just basically takes the text and puts it on the screen. Not the most ideal way, but for the purpose of this test, uh, to show how it's done, it'll work well enough. So when we use the require function, this is already saved, we'll go over to our test PHP, and you'll see that it pulls the code. If I go ahead and comment out the require function, we'll click save, we'll go ahead and load our page again, so you can see nothing is there. So require works really well for just pulling information, another code, and placing it inside of the code you're currently working in. It allows you to work sort of dynamically with PHP, which is made to make things dynamic anyway. Now, one of the features of the require function is that it can be called multiple times. For example, I'm going to copy and paste this. We have the same code being required twice. Oh, that's rolling crying. Try to make this brief. So we'll go ahead and save and reload the page, and as you can see, it calls that data twice. Oh man, he's having a hard time up there. And that's where the require function can be both good and bad. Some pieces of code you want to use more than once. Sometimes you don't want to use it more than once. When you don't want to use that code more than once and don't want to add it by mistake later on, you can use the required once function. Now, required once will take our require function and, well, require once, not required, excuse me. And any additional calls to this code, so this, will be ignored later on. So if we had a bunch of other filler code in here, it would go through, and as soon as it came to this, it's ignored. It's already been called, it's been added or included, so it would not be implemented. So reload. As you can see, even though that we have, oh, no, sorry, I forgot to save. Let me do that. So, as you can see, even though we have two calls to this particular footer.php, since we use the require once method, it only applies it once in our code. If we were to utilize required once up top and just the require method down here, though, weird stuff starts to happen. And honestly, I don't totally get why this is the case, but if we do that, then it appears twice again. So you need to be careful, but using the require and require once methods can really help with calling and reusing PHP code throughout your websites. So we'll go ahead and save again, required once on both. We already know what's going to happen. It's going to disappear where we just have one. So that's the basic rundown of require and require once. These functions allow you to pull other PHP codes and implement them onto your whatever PHP page you're working on. It does need to be a PHP page. If you're going to call it in HTML, you're going to have to figure out how to query the PHP. But that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, guys, and hope you all have a good day.